Welcome back to The Dawn Show. We are live and we are local, and we're talking about HPV, which is one of the most common cancers and one that's so preventable with a vaccine. We have with us a sexologist, Dr. Jill McDevitt, and Neil Zorin, Delco Times, and also, I always say, a media and theater guru. So, you know, we were talking about Michael Douglas coming out in a very open way, which some people were shocked by, depending on who you are and so on and so forth, to say, well, yes, I smoked and drank, but cunnilingus, and maybe this is one of his specialty, we don't know, but, you know, he very,
power to
very, you go, Michael.
That's a lively world.
But he has everybody talking.
Yes.
He does.
And it's good to talk about. It's important because sex is happening all the time.
Thank goodness.
Yes, thank goodness, or else none of us would be here. so yes, among other reasons, but that's true. And there's all kinds of images of sex. Michael Douglas said what he said in context. And by the way, he said that it could have been. He later recanted and said it may have been part of the definitely HPV, but then speculated where the HPV came from. But he's in right now a movie called Behind the Candelabra that has a lot of sexual scenes in it, and you know, it shows images of sex, and that's what sells the picture to the public, including one scene where he is allegedly in a monogamous relationship with Scott Thorson, but then you see him in an adult bookstore, and he's in a private room with what is called a glory hole, and you can imagine what you put through the glory hole and what happens. And therefore, is that where the AIDS comes? If he's in a monogamous relationship,
which ultimately killed Liberace.
Would ultimately killed him and many people.
But I mean, you think about back in the day when even you study media and television, and you think about back in the day, the programs would not even show a married couple in a bed together. They were in twin beds. If you look at all those reruns that still are on the air, and you think about how far we've come, that back in the 70s or even the 80s, would anybody have had a show like Liberace or some of the soap operas, for crying out loud, that we have? And is that a good thing, that we're so open?
It is a good thing.
If it's honest.
Yeah.
I think if it's honest, yeah.
It is a good thing because it's real. It wasn't real life. When I was a little boy watching I Love Lucy and wondered why Lucy and Desi had twin beds like me and my brother instead of a double bed like my parents did.
Which was not honest.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
Which wasn't honest and wasn't real. It was based on something artificial by the Hays office, which put standards on Hollywood products at the time. So it's better to be honest. Now the other thing is what people do with the images. We're bombarded with thousands of images every day, and we talked about a picture being 1,000 words. I'm looking at a prop that Jill bought and brought with her, and you know that is going to be something that people will remember even as much as what we say. But the point is, why do those images stick, and why is it that I remember that scene in the adult bookstore more than anything else? Because
with Liberace,
Liberace, because I'm looking at where to get the AIDS if he's in a monogamous relationship and things like that. So, but I think it is excellent that there are images. Right now, there's an opera in Philadelphia called Powder Her Face, in which there is a scene of oral sex. You see it's with a woman called the Dirty Justice and a bellhop, and you see the bellhop's bare bum. And so he's taking off his pants there. Then they slide down behind a sofa, but it's very, very clear what's being done. So you know that it's part of life, and I think people need to talk about reality. And then you put reality in perspective, and then you do what do we do to protect ourselves from reality, not in terms of holding our ears like.
Well, and that's one thing that, Jill, you know, we were talking about the fact that, okay, Michael Douglas or a lot of people might be in a monogamous relationship or a marriage. And you brought up the point about safe sex, that who in that monogamous relationship, they're not thinking about that. Are there some options for people?
There are, but it's a matter of, who wants to really do them? You can use dental dams. You can buy them or you can make them out of male condoms, and you kind of make them to be a sheet that you would put over a vulva to perform oral sex on a woman so that there's that barrier protection. But how old is he? He's 60 something.
68 years old.
60-year-old man is going to perform oral sex on his wife, and hold on a second, it's a way, especially if you know that one person has HPV and the virus hasn't kicked yet, and that's one thing. But I think who's who's going to do this? I mean,
One of the things I love about Dr. Jill is we have to see the props. She always brings props. Now, what is
That is
this?
great.
it's a plush HPV virus. That's what HPV looks like in cotton form.
Okay, so it's very,
So I just like to have a little visual so people can
think
see
about
what they're-
that.
Yeah, kind of cute. That's the only time everybody's like, oh, HPV, look how cute it is. So,
Not so cute.
Not so cute in real life, but yeah.
No, not so cute. And again, if you can't be tested, we could be vaccinated, but you can't be tested. It's not like AIDS. With AIDS, you can get a test. If you meet somebody, you can say, let's both get tested and see what we can and can't do.
Well, that was one thing years ago, probably in the 90s. I was a news reporter doing a report about AIDS and just testing in general. And so I did live TV, and they took the blood, and it said, "Oh, this is no big deal," and people made a big deal about it. I think that it's important to say to people to look at the vaccines, to look at the testing, and to discuss in a relationship. I mean, that's one thing that you teach in your classes that you teach, right? I mean, just talking about it.
I think the fact that we're even sitting here talking about it right now is so important, and that's why I love that Michael Douglas was brave enough to come out with this information. Because if you look at so many other diseases, illnesses, social problems, maybe child abuse, AIDS, and many other examples, breast cancer with Nancy Reagan, there was that celebrity person who was the first one to make that awkward and really humiliating, look, this has happened to me, and then it made such a wonderful change as far as awareness and that compassion piece that I think is so important, less shaming and blaming a victim. And Michael Douglas is and I've always thought as a sexologist, why is no one, so many celebrities, as the population in general, have an STD, why has no one said, I have herpes, or I have HPV, why is no one coming out? And I'm glad that he not only came out with it, but said, and it was from sex, and it was from giving sex. It wasn't just from these encounters. I was pleasing a woman, and this is what, so I think that it was
You
very
go,
brave.
Michael.
I think it was
Exactly.
very brave of him, and we're talking about it now.
Yeah, and is it brave, or did it just come out naturally in a conversation? But the point is, it came out, and that is important, because it's only polite to be shocked. I mean, we still are Victorian in our own way, and we still want to be all good people. But the point is that if you don't talk about these things, they just become prevalent. And again, that's how they get in perspective. Bra burning is dramatic, so you do
Right.
that, but you don't have to do it after the first 3 times. And you can talk about the subject you want to talk about. And same thing with medical things, and same thing with any moray. I think you get a chance once somebody actually broaches the subject. I said it seems brave to the person who did it, but all they're doing is telling the truth about themselves and giving the chance for the truth to be out. Then what happens to the truth, whether it becomes sensational or whether it becomes information like I think we're doing here that people can use.
And when our conversation continues, we'll wrap things up with Neil and Dr. Jill as we talk about Michael Douglas. We'll be right back. And we want to thank Dr. Jill McDevitt, Neil Zorn of the Delco Times. Thank you so much for being here. We have to have you back because we ran out of time here talking about Michael Douglas, HPV. Be aware and talk about it. Let's talk some more. See you tomorrow here at 11 on The Dawn Show. Have a good one.